Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys all together ready to get started?
We're almost ready. Maybe another minute or so.
Okay, not a problem.
Brendan, good morning. We're ready. We're in the large
Okay,
community.
great.
Yeah, we got
I like being on the side.
9 people in here.
Okay. Give me just 1 second. I'm trying to get this service note complete. Okay. Let me just get this chat window in case you guys have any questions. You know, feel free to send me any chat messages. Okay, so today I was going to go over the QA review process, verifying services, Oasis file build and submission, which we'll kind of walk through those steps. It's actually pretty simple, but since obviously we can't transmit any of these Oasis out of here, I won't be able to do the validation posts and stuff, so we may have to follow up on that, but I'll still talk you through the process. It's very simple. And so is the file build, Oasis file build. So I did complete a couple notes here, and I did approve, I got an Oasis in here ready to approve, so it'll go into the Oasis file build. So let's start with the QA review.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access.
Now I'm going to mute a couple lines, so you may need to unmute yourself if you need to. Hold on just a second. Okay. All right, so for the QA review, and you may have gone through this with the hospice as well, but you'll go to the processes menu. You'll go down to the QA review option. And let me enlarge my screen for you guys real quick. Okay, so you'll go down to the QA review option under the processes menu. And it's going to take you, of course, you are going to have to select your agency for now. And you'll be able to adjust your date range if needed as well. Now, when you first come here, it's going to default to the complete and incomplete service notes, where you can only actually QA service notes that are in a complete or approved status. So I suggest going ahead and filtering this to the approved and complete. And then there's going to be a little lock here that you can just lock that down. So every time you come here, it'll remember your approved and completed filters right here. I don't know if you guys will QA 100% of your notes or just Oasis or, you know, new clinicians, just making sure they get, you know, documented correctly, and then maybe you don't QA them as much. This process, there is a rule that makes this process required to verify a service if you guys ever choose to use that rule. Otherwise, you'll still be able to verify services even though it hasn't gone through a QA process. And you'd be able to QA those service notes even all the way up till, you know, the final bill. Really, you'd probably want to get it done by the final bill. But other than that, it's up to you guys how you want to QA your notes. But what you would do is you'd come in here, and you can filter to specific services. So again, if you're only looking at a specific discipline or you know, a specific nurse or clinician, or a specific assessment type, a service note type. Maybe you're only doing the starts of cares and rocks and research or something like that. You could filter to just those note types as well. But you're going to find your note that you're looking for. You will see that the QA status, it says, it'll say either no QA, QA done and response incomplete, QA and response exists, or QA done. So those are going to be all your options here, or labels here. If you hover over the little action item menu next to it, you're going to have this link to review the service note assessment, and you'll click on that. It'll take you into your service note. And really, I needed to probably log in as the, I'm sorry, I need to back up because I can't QA my own service note. I won't get the messages. So let me log in as the, let's see what her login, C leader, okay. Okay, let me get back to that QA. Okay, so you'll hover over the little action item menu, go to the review service note assessment. It's going to take you into the service note, and you can see everything's grayed out. You guys cannot make edits directly to the service note, but what you're going to do is there is these review section links next to every single section. You would come down here, click on the review section if you find an issue that you want them to change. You click on the review section, and you're going to add your comment. Click on add comment, tell them you need to address this, or whatever it is that you're wanting them to do for that. You'll hit save, and then you can close out of that. You can add as many comments as you want to for each section, but really you can just put it all in the one comment. You can see that that font changed from that kind of orange color to this pink color. That means a response does exist, or the QA response is there. So you'll go through the entire note and make comments on every section that you want them to make changes to. And the other options you have while you're in here, you can just review the section history, and you can see all the different comments in which section you made those comments on there, if you need to look at that. If the note was good and they didn't need to make any changes at all, you can go ahead and mark it as QA done, and you would have to add a response as well, add another comment, letting them know that everything would look good. Once you decide that, enter all the comments that you need to, you're going to come up here to the top of the note where it says mark service note incomplete and send message to review service note assessment. Once you do that, hit OK. It is going to mark the assessment as incomplete, and then it will show that QA it'll say this QA and response is incomplete is what's going to show on that status for that note. Okay, and then the clinician, they're going to get a note or a message in the unread messages up here in this unread messages link. They're going to have to check this pretty regularly. They're going to click on that, and then they're going to see that the clinical leader QA'd the note, and it's going to show you the patient's name and everything here. The clinician will click on the service note review. It'll take them to the service notes tab for that patient, and then you'll end up seeing that there is a QA, and then the response is incomplete, and then the service note is incomplete. So they'll hover over the little action item menu next to that service note, and they're going to choose to edit the page service note assessment. It's going to bring them into the service note. There's a fast way of doing this. You can just click on the change section, and you'll see what sections show that a response is needed. So that's the fastest way to do it. Otherwise, they just have to hit next until they find the section. But what they need to do is just go to those sections, and then they're going to have this review section link inside their note, and it's going to be red initially. If they were to try to complete their note right now, they're going to get error messages that they need to respond to they need to add responses to those sections. So it is going to prevent them from completing their note if they don't answer these and make corrections. So they'll click on the review section. They're going to add a response. They may say something, that they've completed it. They may argue with you about it and say, no, this is what I really assess. This is I don't feel comfortable changing this documentation, and they'll send you a message back either way. And then they'll hit close to get out of this window after they've had their response. And then you can go back up there to the change section and click on the next section that needs a response. And they're going to do the same thing. Click on review section, add a response, and then hit save, and then close. Once they've answered all the sections, you can see once they've actually added a comment, it changes that font from red to green on the review section. Lets them know they've added it. And if you click on the change section again, it no longer says that it's required. So then they can complete their note. Okay, and then the person that did the QA will get a message back in here that says that QA has been done. But yeah.
Brandon, we have a question.
Hi,
Yeah.
Brendan. It's Leslie. So these back and forth review notes that go from the QA reviewer to the clinician, and is that part of the medical record? So if this chart was audited, they'd see the back and forth?
No, you would be able to get that information if you came back to the review screen. You can actually export all this with the QA review and responses if you filter those date ranges. But in the patient encounter, it's not going to see any of that information. If you print off your service note, it's not going to have that conversation back and forth. It's only going to be the completed service note when the QA has been finalized. So it's not, you'll still have access to the information in Care Efficient, but it's not really part of that chart unless you wanted it to be. You could print this information off to show an auditor if it helps you with your argument or whatever, but otherwise, no, it's not really part of that chart.
What if it's a subpoena chart?
If they did a subpoena?
Yeah. Those need to be sent.
It'd be the same thing. I mean, if under the patient encounter, you're going to give them all of this information. Let me just click on one of these. You'll end up going to the Documents tab, printing off all these forms for them, the signed forms. Any of your signed orders will be in here. Any of your uploaded, pictures and things of wounds that are attached to your service notes will end up here. You'll end up downloading all that information. So there's no QA information in this chart other than under the Service Notes tab. You will see under the QA status, it just says the QA has been done. But it doesn't give you, so when you export these service notes, it doesn't have any of that QA information on them. So unless that's the subpoena, I mean, I don't know, I've never been in one of those scenarios, but unless they said they want access to your system, they wouldn't have access to that information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. So anyway, you'll go back to the QA review process. Again, go back to your agency. And then you're going to end up seeing that these QA and response exist. That means when it says the response exists, that means the clinician responded to you. At this point, you can go back into the note by the same process. Click on the Review Service Note Assessment, and it's going to bring you back into that service note. You can go back to the section review history, and you'll be able to see all this information. You'll be able to see the information that the responses that the clinician had added back in there. So you can review all that information and see if there's anything you need to address. And then again, of course, you can see if they did make changes to it, you would see those changes addressed here. And again, you guys can do this process over and over and over. You can hit review section. If you still don't like it, add another comment, mark the service note as incomplete, and send a message back to that clinician. And again, you can do that just as many times as you guys need to. And then, but as long as you come back into the note, everything looks good, you can either mark QA done from within this note, or even from the outside of this, just from this screen here, you do have the opportunity to mark QA as done on the outside of the service note. And then you can come up here and hit change status to QA done and or approved. And then that's the whole process. You have any questions about it? It's not too difficult. The clinicians just really need to make sure they're reading those messages up here, for those QA changes that they need to make. And again, it doesn't affect verifying services and billing and payroll. It won't affect any of that unless you were to turn that rule on that says you cannot verify a service unless the service note is marked as QA done. That'd be the only thing that would affect that. And right now, that's not normally turned on by default.
Yes.
Hi, Brendan. It's Jamie. How are you? I have a question. So I understand the importance of the clinician reading the unread messages, but if the patient is their patient and they go to that patient encounter under the service notes, when you pull up the service notes, won't they see that same message that the QA is it's incomplete and QA is done? I'm just seeing, will they see it in another spot as well that the QA is done?
Yeah, that's the only place where the clinicians will typically see it unless they have access to this QA review. So the only place they'll see that the QA is done is on the service notes tab.
Okay. So if they, for some reason, didn't read the unread messages, when they go to the service notes tab, they would see that QA has been done.
Correct. They would see that. Absolutely.
Thanks.
I'm going to go ahead and mark this one as done just so you can guys see. Now, once it's marked, that when you mark it as QA done, you do have to add another comment just saying that it was completed, or, changes were made or changes were not made, whatever comments you guys want. Again, the only place you're going to see that information would be from this QA process, and only if you export that. You could filter it down to specific criteria and then export that, and then you'd be able to have those comments on there and be able to view that. So that's the QA process. It's again, if you guys have questions later, just let me know. It's not too hard of a process. They really do need to be checking that, and they will get work basket items as well. If under the scheduling, it'll show them that service notes are incomplete. It doesn't say anything about the QA in the work basket because it's not necessarily always required on all service notes or services, and so there's no work basket that's going to be generated for that. But they would see that they have incomplete service notes, and it would probably be because of that. But they really just need to be using the unread messages. That's the best way. Most organized, fastest way for them to be able to identify any of those notes. So,
Brendan, sorry, does it automatically generate the message, or does the QA person have to send the message? Does it automatically generate the message?
Yeah, when you click on that link inside the note that says mark assessment is incomplete and send message to clinician or whatever, I can tell you here, hold on. It's the one that says at the top of the note, mark a service note incomplete and send message to review service note assessment. That does it all in one step.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem.
Brendan?
The next thing I was...
Brendan?
Brendan,
Yes.
the QA review, we review 100% of our Oasis assessments. Is it the same for a start of care that would include like the med review, full Oasis, comprehensive assessment? Or
Yeah,
orders,
every service note, yeah, every single service note you guys will be able to QA, every one of them that you want to. So if it's a Oasis, Start of Care, Rock, and any of them, they're all going to show up in your QA review in this section here. So you guys can, and like I said, here's one of the Starts of Cares. So every single service note is going to be in here, service note type. So if you wanted to filter to just the Start of Cares, you can do that. Then you can move to the resumptions. Then you can move to the research.
is it only going to give us the note part of it, or will it give us the whole access to everything?
The whole thing.
One.
The whole thing. The whole thing. Everything that they see on their end when they're filling it out, you're going to see the whole thing as well.
So Keena's question is, so the PAS is here, review like the med list, let's say. So if the clinician writes in their service note, taught on how to take Paxil correctly, then they go and check the med list to make sure Paxil is actually on the med list. So is that your question, Keena?
Yeah, yeah.
So how would will they have, obviously you can view the med list, anyone can view the med list. So is your
Right.
question more like where do you put it in the note?
How are we going to access it quickly from this note? Where are we going to have to go back to the patient encounter, go to the med list, get out of your review?
I think so.
Yeah, there's not a quick link from here to go directly to the patient. So to review that, the meds, that would have to be, when you guys know you have a Start of Care research that you guys need to review like that, you just absolutely would have to go to the meds tab to review those.
And I'm just remembering, so like in Care Efficient, we can't have two Care Efficients open. Because that first I think they can have one screen and be in the patient encounter and then the other screen be in the QA process. But you can't do that. They'll just be in the QA section and they'll have to go out of that, read like the H&P, read the med list, look at the orders, and then go into the QA section, right?
Well, yes and no. As far as having two tabs open, for office staff, it's not as big of an issue unless you're writing orders or documenting inside any form or service note. Those kind of things will cause issues if you have more than one tab open. But field staff, that's always an issue. So field staff never should do that because they will always have issues pretty much. I mean, I see it all the time. So office staff, I don't think it's as big of an issue. I mean, if you guys see that if there's any data loss happening or anything like that, obviously just quit doing that. But I don't see that there would be an issue if you were in QA and then you had another tab and you went to the patient encounters just to review the meds. I don't see that that would cause any kind of an issue. It's usually when it's dealing with documentation, again, forms, orders, service notes, those kinds of things. But that's what I would do. If I was working in the office, that's exactly what I would do because I haven't seen issues in that kind of an aspect. But there's other things that you guys are going to have to do, obviously, to finish the QA, and we're going to go over that here in a second, because you still have to go to the Oasis once the service note's done, or as long as the Oasis portion of the service note is good to go. You guys would end up going back to the service note or the patient encounter. Of course, coding has to be done, and you have to go through that process. You guys would have to, the coders would have to let you know that they have completed the coding. And then you guys would just have to know that all disciplines have entered all their information on the 485, and all the care needs are created. So somebody's still going to have to do that process as well. So somebody's going to be in that patient encounter no matter what. And to review the meds, you're going to have to do the same thing. So I do have an Oasis in here. And I was going to show you, I've got this transfer in here. I've got it in an open status. Now, once you know that QA has done their process, now this is just a transfer, and I know it's not the start of care. I couldn't get that one completed in time, but it'd be the same process. When the service note is in a complete status, these pencils will not be grayed out. It'll look like this yellow one. If the service note is in an incomplete status, you are going to have these pencils grayed out, so you can't do anything with this yet. And you just need, you're going to have to wait on that clinician to get it done. You may have to contact them and ask them why it's not done yet, whatever needs to be done. I mean, especially, you know, for your starts of cares. But basically, once you guys are the service notes in a complete status, you guys would come over here, hover over the action item menu. You can do the Pdgm analysis, which is going to show you your HERG score, your HIPS code. It's going to show you your clinical groupings, and it's going to show you those LUPA thresholds for the first 30 days and second 30 days. And it does give you the agency cost, projected cost, and then it gives you the episode amount for those 30-day episodes. And so you can get that information here. The LUPA ones and the money here is the most important part, I think. There's also the Oasis Analysis.
I believe that we asked for the financial part not to be available to view by everybody. Didn't we?
I'm not sure about the JP. Do you are you aware of that, or are we making changes so that they can't do that?
No, not on the reimbursement. Not on that. Nobody's ever discussed that with us. We talked about pay rates for the associate and removed those, but nobody said anything about the financial, the reimbursement information. No, because I don't know where. I mean, I don't know how we would hide that from certain people. That's available to anybody that has access to the chart.
All right. To think about that. So any clinician will go in and can do the Pdgm analysis, and they'll be able to see that.
Yes.
Can we turn off the Pdgm analysis for certain roles?
Do you for certain roles? Not right now. It's because it's access to the patient encounter. There's no separate access for the because again, if they need to keep track of their LUPA thresholds, which is important, they need to know that, and that's where that information is housed because that's tied to billing and everything. So it's no different than your billers seeing that information. Your billers also see that.
Okay.
And those numbers are never final. They don't always change, or they do change. You know, of course, if it is a LUPA, if you had a clinical update in the first 30 days, those for and you update diagnoses and things like that. Your second 30 days, all this information would change. And then, of course, based off of what you guys have scheduled on the encounter for these different disciplines, these rates are pulled from the your agency settings. So, excuse me, and it's not going to be per associate. So, what you may pay an associate one rate and a different associate another rate. It's not going to recognize any of that kind of stuff. So your projected costs could change based off those pay rates for those clinicians. But that's the Pdgm analysis. So you guys in the office would really run that. Field staff really, I don't even teach them to run the Pdgm too much, other than for the LUPA thresholds. The Oasis analysis, this is the main one that you guys really need to do, and they have the clinicians have access to this inside of their service note, and they need to be checking that prior to completing their Oasis anyway. But you can get this Oasis analysis again. Anything that's red is going to be a fatal and rejected, and that would have to be corrected before you guys lock this. So you guys can run this from outside of the Oasis, as well as when you go in the edit pencil, which will be the next step, you'll click on that. When it's good to go, you can double check. You can make changes to this Oasis, again, with the clinician's permission. If they agree to those changes, then you would be able to make changes to their Oasis. This information will flow back to their service note, so the updated Oasis would be reflected inside the print view of that service note when you guys print those off. There wouldn't be any discrepancies. But make sure everything looks good. Again, in the top of this, you do have, you'll have to hit the approve to actually lock it. So everything's good to go. You've made any changes, you would hit approve. It's going to lock it. When it's in a lock status, then that's going to throw it into the Oasis file build. So the next step is to come up to the processes menu, go to the Oasis file build, and you're going to find that you have, you're going to see the agency name, agency identifier, and branch identifier. You'll see that the Oasis status, they're always going to be locked when they're in here. The mode's going to be production is what you're going to see, and you're going to see the how many of those locked Oasis are in this file batch. So right now we only have that one in there that I just approved or locked. If you click on the little magnifying glass to the right of that, it'll show you all the records that you have in this, and it tells you the time point as well. In this, you do have the option to hold this one record from your transmission from the file build. If you choose hold in here and hit save, this will only hold it for that day, and then it'll show back up into the file build that next day. And then you'll have to do it again. The only time if you guys just aren't sure that one's really ready to go, that's when you would use that. Or if you have more than one record for the same patient, more than one Oasis, it's best to send them in order so you don't get out of sequence errors from CMS. So if you had a start of care in there and a transfer, you would hold the transfer, go ahead and send that start of care here, and then in the next file build, you'd send that transfer off. You always want to send them in sequential order, with that logical time point sequence. And that being said, if you did have a start of care, yeah?
If I had a start of care not locked before the discharge, would it automatically pull in there?
Yes, and that's what I was actually just fixing to say. It's always best not to even lock them out of sequence. So if that kind of scenario happened, don't even approve or lock that discharge until you lock that start of care, and get that start of care sent before you send the discharge. That way you don't get those errors or warnings messages from CMS. So in my opinion, you'd be better off just not locking it in the first place.
Do the clinicians lock, correct?
The clinicians approve their service note, but the Oasis it's kind of managed after that. So like I said, once the Oasis integrated assessment is approved, then somebody in the office would review the Oasis after coding. It's still got to go to coding. Then you guys in the office would be the ones that approve that or lock that. Unless you want your clinicians out in the field doing that, we have the ability to let them do that.
Okay.
But typically most offices have somebody in the office that manages the Oasis, reviewing them, a second set of eyes, making sure there's no errors, no fatals, everything looks good, it's gone through coding. Those field staff usually will have no idea once they approve their note that all the rest of that stuff has been processed or not, unless they went to the chart.
So
Can you
go backwards just one step? Because I'm questioning the part where you said, so the clinician marks it completed, and then the QA person can actually edit the Oasis and make changes to it. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes. Anybody else that can go into those Oasis and make changes. You will get a void with every one of them that you do that with. Let me see if I can show you that. If somebody was to make changes First of all, it's going to show you who performed that Oasis in this performed by column. So that's the information that, that's the discipline that gets transmitted with the Oasis and everything. As far as anytime anybody goes into that edit pencil other than this person that initially performed it, it will create this voided record, and so it's going to show you what the original Oasis was if you were to try to print this. And then it's going to update this information here saying it was reviewed/approved by, and it's going to update the name to whoever went into that edit pencil. And then it's going to change that name. So it will create an audit trail for you guys to see what those changes were and who made those changes.
So Brendan, they don't have to actually void it. They just go in and click on the pencil and edit, and it does that automatically.
Correct.
But it has to be, it has to be in a completed state. So the clinician will have had to have answered every hard stop in their start of care service note in order for it to get to the status where a PAS or a QA person can use that edit pencil on the Oasis?
Correct. That edit pencil will be grayed out until they approve their service note. So you guys can't QA that service note. You guys can't approve this Oasis or lock it. They have to get through that process first so that you guys can get into it. If it's grayed out and that Oasis is still in an open status and you guys have already just looked at it, you could tell them to go ahead and make those changes directly on their Oasis integrated assessment before they approve it. But otherwise, you can't do anything on this end on the orders tab until they approve it. So see how it's grayed out? I think I answered all these questions in here. Let me see if it'll let me approve it. No, I didn't answer this one. It'd take a while. But once they approve this, then that pencil is not going to be grayed out, and you guys will be able to go into it. When somebody else goes into it, it's going to automatically void the previous assessment or previous Oasis, not the service note, the Oasis. It's going to void it, and it's going to update this name here. And then it's going to be in an open status so that you guys can make those changes. And you are going to get this void. If anybody else goes into this Oasis, it's going to get a void pop-up window here. So you guys can say who generated the change. You can add the reason type. We would have to add one actually to the settings. Let me make a note of that. I'll add something in there, so that you guys can actually make a comment here. You guys would be able to enter a comment of any information you guys want to enter into that. And then you can hit save, and it will bring you into the Oasis just like this. And again, you guys would have the ability to make changes to the Oasis.
Brendan, if the Oasis was already submitted, would it automatically, when this is locked, would it send it as a correction and send it for batching again?
Yes. If it was transmitted, when you guys unlock and reprocess, we automatically set the correction. The first time you do it, we'll set the correction number to number 1. Second time you do it, we'll set it to number 2, and so on and so forth. So we'll do that part for you automatically. You won't even see it. It just does it automatically. Okay. And if it hasn't been transmitted, it won't set a correction number. It'll still be set at 0 if it wasn't transmitted. So we'll keep track of that part of it for you so you don't have any issues with it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Brendan, I have a question. Sorry. If you're going into a patient's chart and you want to see how far they've gotten in their note, can another clinician, so if Daniel did his start of care or his revisit, and I want to know how far did he get in his charting on those visits? can I, as another clinician, I'm not Daniel, can I only see that in the PDF format, or can I see, you know, the screens that he sees as he's entering them?
You would only be able to do it as the PDF format if it's in an incomplete status. If it was in complete status, you could view it in the QA review, and it's that scrollable form, but it's the exact same information. The only difference is in the QA, you'd actually be able to leave those comments.
So then you can't
So, yeah,
copy
you would,
and paste out a PDF. Yeah, there's no. Okay.
You
Okay.
can-
Thanks.
yeah, you wouldn't be able to edit their note or anything at all, but you would be able to view it, the status that it's in. Now, just be aware, if they're in there documenting currently, unless they hit save or, you know, they hit next to go to the next section, that's the only time we're going to see that information, or if they were to hit save and close. So they could still be in there working on it, and you might not see some of the information if he's literally currently working on it. So you'll only see what's displayed here if we've received it.
Through his. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. So again, on the Oasis file build, you can click on that and see which ones are in there. If you needed to hold one temporarily, you could do that from here. There's actually another way to hold it permanently if you needed to, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But for the file build, sorry, my dog's barking. Hold on just one second. So for the file build portion of it, super simple. You click on this folder, little book icon or file icon, and then you hit send. That's all you do. And we send them in the background. Now, after they get sent, depends on how long it takes for us to get the responses back, but then they're going to show up in the Oasis validation post. So you'll click on the Oasis validation post, you know, at least once a day, if not more. And this part I can't show you until we actually have live data and live responses. So if you guys want a little follow-up call, we can go over it. It's super simple. You're going to see the agency name for the validation post, the agency identifier, the submission date, the batch ID, which is very helpful, how many records were in there, the matches, and the transmission creation date. And then over here to the right, you're going to end up with some icons so that you can actually view those responses, you know, accepted or rejected. And then there'll be another icon to the farther right to post those responses. And then those responses will be visible on the orders tab next to that Oasis. You'll see the transmitted date when it's transmitted, and then you'll see the response. Now, when you transmit it, you'll see the date. Before we get the response back, it'll say NA on the response. But once we get that back, then it'll say accepted or rejected. So that portion of it I can't show you, you know, in great detail, but we can revisit that portion of it later. And it's, like I said, it's that simple. Now, the Oasis validation post, whoever's going to be running that, also needs to make sure they have that permission or that report assigned to them, and then they'll have that in the automated reports. So let me sign back in, and I'll kind of show you where that would be. So if they have access to automated reports.
Brendan? Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm being asked if there's any way you can set up Oasis to stop if it's out of sequence before batching.
I don't know if that's something that they'd be able to do or not. But, you know, like I said, and there's times that I don't know that you could always put a hard stop on that, because what if you've sent a start of care and then sent a DC, but now you got to resend the start of care for whatever reason you made a correction to it, then, you know, or any other version of sequences, you might end up having issues with that. So I don't know if that's something that's even possible, but as of right now, that is not possible.
Okay, thank you.
So whoever is going to be managing those Oasis validation posts do have to have that report assigned to them, and then they'd have that report under the reports option and automated reports. There's going to be one in here for Oasis agency final validation. Of course, we don't have any in here, but it would give them they'll have access to those. Of course, normally you'll print those off, and then I don't know about California, but in Texas we actually have to keep those in an administrative binder to show that we're actually processing those, looking at those,
So,
making corrections and any rejections, etc. So you guys would want
so
to
who
print
should
those
be
off.
assigned this Oasis agency final validation report?
Me and Jennifer.
Thank you.
And then, of course, they need the security on their role to make sure they can do the file builds and validation posts, or you know, if it's just a validation, they can have just that. But they'd have to make sure they have that in their permissions as well.
Yeah, they have the QA role.
Okay. Well, the QA, I mean, I'd have to look at the role to see how it's set up, but just make sure they do have the option under the processes section for those two.
Okay.
Now, the last thing that we really needed to go over is the different, the verification process. So everything that you did, of course, you've got all the information and records for your EMR. However, you need to, you know, for the payroll portion and for the billing portion, you absolutely have to verify those services. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. And I know we've probably gone over some of these in some previous meetings as well, so you guys are probably already familiar with the different options. But we have the single verification option, which is under the patient menu, verifications, and then you can choose verify services. If you were to click on that, you do see all of the information in here. So for all the different agencies, so you may want to just filter it down to that one agency. You do any service that has not been addressed or verified are going to be in here. So if you guys didn't cancel them or you didn't verify them, they're going to show up in here to get, because you guys need to address them. You either need to cancel them, which you can actually do straight from here, and even make mark it as a misvisit or create a misvisit order from there. But all of these need to be addressed. Any of these services, if you see the little clipboard icons, that means there's a service note attached. If it's orange background, that means it's an incomplete service note. You can, if you hover over it, it'll say view incomplete service note. You can click on that. It will open up that service note in a PDF format, so you guys can scroll through there and look at it and see where they're at. The ones with the green background means the service note is in a completed status, so you'd be able to verify this service. And there should be one with a blue background. The blue one means the QA has been done. Let me see if I have that in here. It may have been in a different agency. Yeah. But it would have a blue background. That just means the QA has been done. So the blue ones and the green ones, you'd be able to verify. The orange ones, there is an agency rule to allow you to verify visits with an incomplete service notes, and that may be valuable, especially on your starts of cares, because you need to get that completed and that service verified within that 5-day window so you can send your wrap. And you really need to have it done before the 4th day so that the wrap would be available by that 5th day. So that is an option if you guys run into the problem of not getting those wraps submitted timely. You may want to turn that rule on that allows you to do that.
Can you explain that again? So you're saying the document could be, the clinician may not have it in completed status because it needs to be in a completed status for it to be verified by payroll to pay the clinician for the visit. But if just on those types, we could turn that off, that it could be considered complete, even if it's not complete, for payroll to pay the clinician?
From what I understand what you're saying, yes. There is a rule that's normally not on that we could turn on per agency that will allow verification of an incomplete service note. It's the service you're verifying. You're not verifying the service note. However, there is a rule, that you can allow somebody to verify services without it being in a completed status. And then again, you can still verify a service and mark it as incomplete after it's gone through the QA process. You could have already paid that clinician a month ago for it. They're not going to get paid again by marking their service note as complete. So it's kind of two separate things.
So,
Brendan.
Yes.
Just to be clear, because Molly and Tree have already discussed this, they are not. I mean, if you're interested in doing that, you need to talk with them. They are not interested in turning those rules on. They want notes completed timely, and that is also going to be held for payroll. So again, we did put that option out there, and they did think about it. So you probably need to, I don't know if Molly's on the call, but you probably need to discuss that with her.
And we've talked with the directors about, what we had talked about, JP.
So I guess my question can it be just on certain, because the example that Brendan gave.
No, it's an all or nothing rule right now. It's not a pick and choose rule.
Okay, can you go over again what needs to be completed for a wrap to drop? And if it's not done within 5 days, what will result in the no payment?
Okay.
Well, it won't result in no payment. It's going to result in a reduced payment because they deduct so much per day. Just to be clear on that. But yeah, go ahead, Brendan. But I just want to make sure it's not that you won't get paid. It's going to be a reduction in payment. They would deduct so much per day after the 5th day of it being late.
Correct.
And if it starts on day 1, there's penalties.
Yeah.
So it's a big penalty. But go on. Go ahead.
So
Okay.
for the system to generate the wraps on those starter cares, it's going to look for two things, but one thing can be in 2 different places. So it's going to look for the verbal order date and a clinician signature either on your referral order or on your 485. So it can be satisfied by entering that date and that signature, either one, either location. And then the second thing that it's going to look for is that starter care visit has been verified. So it has to be verified, and it has to find that signature. So that's why in the training I kept telling them, even if you're not done with this 485, even if you haven't even started it, just once you've activated the patient and it exists, get in there and sign it. That way, if it's not on the referral order, then it's going to catch it on the 485 for that signature and verbal order date. And then, again, on your side, the first billable visit needs to be verified. And then you're going to then it's going to automatically generate that wrap that, and JP, is that set up for them to like release, like a payer review release, or is that going to go on its own?
You mean on that first PDGM? I think right now for Medicare, I think we're going to go ahead and let that one. I mean, that one's going to go because there's not a lot of editing on that. I mean, normally they put that payer review release on just to get used to make sure the payer and all the requirements are set up. But we pretty much have we know what we need, and by the time the bill gets there, we don't have that payer review release held on there just so it doesn't get delayed because there's such a tight timeline on that right now.
Okay. And then for your second 30-day wrap, in your episode, it's going to automatically generate it. I think it's 2 days prior to the that 30-day mark, that 30-day date, and then it's automatically going to populate that second 30-day wrap. So you don't have to do anything for that one, and that one does not require a visit to be verified, in a 5-day window or anything like that. That one doesn't matter because you may not see the patient for quite a while. Now, on your transition patients, you really need to, as of now, try to get a visit in there for that first 5-day window so that you guys don't have that issue. Sorry,
actually, I do have a question, and I believe I think Molly answered this already, but you guys do this work. So the one thing that we need to know, again, with your patients as we're transitioning, you could have patients that you only see once or twice a month, like for catheter changes, for B12 injections. Molly was pretty sure she didn't think you had a whole lot of those, because there may be some, we may need to be aware of some of those as far as getting that getting that wrap out the door.
I can
so I
get you
thought I
the
would just
exact
ask you guys.
number. Amber has we can get you the exact number of those today. Amber, who's doing the transition, has those.
We have a lot of those.
Okay, because those are the ones that, we need to be aware of those, because you have to have a visit in that first 5 days of that second period, or even when you're transitioning them. So we need something we need to figure out a way to trigger those. That's the one thing that we do need to be aware. Other than that, you should be okay with generating that second wrap. But the B12 injections and the catheter changes, or anybody you don't see on a weekly basis, are ones we need to know about.
Why wouldn't we finish those in McKesson?
We're gonna just do everybody as a recert and bring them over during the next 2 months. So even if they're the long-term ones, or the ones we only see once or twice a month, we'll just transition them over at the recert period.
Yeah, wait a second.
Well, that's what you're going to do anyway on all of your patients. But for
Right.
that, on those transition patients, you do have to have that. Right now, we have to have that first billable visit within that first 5 days.
In the first 5 days.
When we
That's the key.
transition them.
Yeah.
After we research. After
So
we
the research
research.
doesn't. Yeah, after the research. The research is going to be done in McKesson and going to be billed through McKesson, so we can't bill that through Care Efficient. So you're going to have an additional visit in that first 5 days.
Okay, so
starting
this
a new
is not, we're not talking about true second 30-day patients. So not somebody that was admitted on 3/15 and is starting their second 30-day on 4/16. You don't want those, because that's not being billed through you. Well, you just
It's
want
the
people
first
that are.
30-day one.
Not the
Correct.
first 30 day, that second 30, yeah. The
Okay.
second cert period, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Brendan, how we do it now in McKesson is we drop the second 30-day when we drop the initial wrap. So you're saying your system doesn't drop the second 30-day?
30 days before.
It does it on the 28th day.
Okay.
So it's still before that second 30-day. It's going to be generated before then. But no, we don't do both the first and second 30-day at one time. We do them. It's
But we
28
are,
days apart.
that is on our roadmap, because that is an option for CMS. We just went based on what our current clients said no, they didn't want to do that. So we did not put that in when we made the change. So we do have that on our roadmap, because you do have the option as a provider to say, look, I want to send these both at the same time, and that is your priority. But we just don't have it done.
Okay, I have a question. If the patient, let's say, is in the hospital on day 28 and comes out, and we rock them on day 30, will we have to let you know somehow manually to drop it, or when you see the rock incomplete, will the wrap drop for the second 30?
JP, didn't they change that to where the hold status didn't matter?
The hold status doesn't matter, but once they do the rock, I don't know. I mean, so you're saying, so they were on hold, and on the 28th day, so the 28th day they were on hold, the 29th day they came out of the hospital.
And we do a rock, but it's not completed. We start it. Will you drop that second 30-day, or will it hold until that rock is complete?
Well, we'll drop it. I'm trying to figure out when we're going to drop it. I know we'll drop it. I mean, that'll happen within the first 5 days. I don't know that we send it early. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if that rock has to be completed.
Because it will change
I'm
the
making a
hips,
note
but
here. I need to talk to Todd about that. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So just everyone in this room, that 5-day that we're keeping, which I'm going to talk to them again about it, because that means it has to be coded.
Not really, because it doesn't require a code. I mean, you can put any code on. I mean, so they can take the first code. It doesn't have to be coded to drop that rock, or to drop the. I'm sorry, not the rock.
Right,
To drop the wrap. Yeah.
So it's just, they're gonna, and it could be all done wrong. It doesn't matter. They just need to be able to
Right.
get.
That's kind of amazing, but you're exactly right. It can be 100% wrong. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, it's going to be your final that matters. But
Makes the difference. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll get back to this. If you guys have any other questions, just let me know. But as far as the verification, single verify, which is where we're in, again, you got filters. You can filter specific patients or associates, date ranges, but anything that's on here without these filters is going to be things that you guys they need to be addressed. Either the service needs canceled, they need to get those service notes complete. Your pay onlys will be in here. Everything needs to be reviewed. Everything needs to be verified. So to verify service, again, you can't verify the incomplete services unless we turn that rule on, but it doesn't sound like we're going to do that. You'll click on the edit pencil and it'll bring you into this screen here. If anything was set up for override, you'd be able to manually make changes to the rates or pay rates. This one is salaried, so it's not going to show a rate at all. And it will give you this, it looks like an error, but it's not really an error. It just shows it that the associate is salaried. If there's any billing unit errors, any, no rates in here, you're going to get an error saying there's no rates. So that service code may need to be adjusted to the correct code for this payer. You can also, if you have more than one payer on that patient, you can adjust which payer it is. Here, it is going to default to the primary or number one position payer every time you come to this screen. But all of this information can be corrected. You can correct the service codes, the payer, the service times. Again, if they contact you that they accidentally put AM instead or PM instead of AM, they ended up with a 13-hour visit, or if you just happen to catch it, then you guys can make those changes here. And it reflects it on the service note as well. So it's not going to be a verified service. Those times are going to match your service note. So it will flow back to that service note when you make these corrections. Again, you have the option to do your travel duration here, reimbursement for mileage. If you do use mileage here, you'd have to change that to the mileage rate or flat rate and enter that number here, number of miles. At this point, you do have the option to make it not payable by unchecking the checkbox next to payable. That would make it not payable. You can make it not billable, which happens more often than not, and you can make sure that it doesn't create a billing record. It can be any combination of these two, so you can make it not billable but still payable. Any of those options here. You also have the option to add your supplies at this point for the invoice. And then at this point, you just hit verify and continue. And you do get the clipboard inside of this screen as well, so you can click on that to look at the note to make sure, certain pillars were hit if you guys are focusing on certain things. But you do have the option to view it from inside this window as well. And then all you do is hit verify and continue, and it will verify that service and take you to the next record. Now, it will take you to the next record, or whether it's got an incomplete service note, no service note, it'll take you to the next one. So I clicked on number 7 of 273 initially. So now I'm on record 8 of 273. So you can hit the little arrow button here to skip that invoice or that service, and you can move on to the next one until you get to one. That could take a long time, but otherwise you can just cancel out of those, go back to that this verification screen, and then you can move on down to the next one that has the green or blue note, and then go ahead and just verify that. Hit verify and continue. See, this one will give you an error. Pay encounter is not active on 8/23. So if you get errors like this, the payer start date, again, I've told you guys in the beginning, it has to be equal to or prior to the first billable visit, or you're going to get something like this. This one just doesn't even actually have a service selected. So that's how you can make adjustments here. Again, if this is grayed out, then the override was not set up for the pay rates or billing rates. So it'll be grayed out. You cannot make changes to that. If it is open, you can make changes to that. So this is one way. I don't like this way very much, but this is one way you can do it. The other way you can do it is go back to that verification menu and go to Verify Services en masse. And just to know, and I know you guys know about it, there is an automated service process that you guys, if it's a rule, we can turn on for your agencies. Just, I know you guys probably aren't going to do this, but it would allow every midnight any services that have the time in, time out, and a completed service note would all be verified in your pay onlys. You can include those or not include them, and it would verify everything that has those meets that criteria overnight, every night. And then we have the Verify Services en masse. The Verify Services en masse, you do have to make some filters here. You can only do it per agency and per associate or patient. You can choose either one of those. And then what it'll do is load up all those services in here. Anything that meets the criteria that you can verify, it'll have a little checkbox next to it. Anything that has any of those errors, you can hover over it and it'll tell you what those errors are. These ones do not have service notes, so there's no time in and time out. And there's other issues. It could just be the incomplete service note. It could be charge rates need to be greater than 0 for certain one. This one doesn't have any rates in here. From this screen, you can make any changes to these service codes, to the service dates, to the time ins, time outs, to the reimbursement type for the mileage, travel duration, mileage information. You can make these not payable, not billable. If the rates are allowed to override, you can enter those rates or override those rates. And then you can change the payer. So you can make any changes to all these services all on this one screen. If you do make changes, you're going to get a little link up here at the top that says Post Changes. And you guys will click on that, and it will adjust that service. Now, it doesn't verify it. When you hit Post Changes, it doesn't verify the service. It just posts those changes that you made to this grid. And again, normally you're not going to have all these errors. This was just all these test patients. But normally you're going to see mostly blue checks next to all your services and maybe a couple of these red ones. If you hit Verify All Checked, it verifies every single one of those services at one time. And then you can also view just all the unverified services. But I'm sorry?
I was asking Delia to mute us.
The other things you can do is add supplies to these services from here. And again, you can cancel them. If it ended up being a missed visit, you could cancel that service, and then you'll have to choose the resolution date. Maybe it was a patient not home. And then again, you can create that interim order by checking that little checkbox, and it'll pull this information. It'll pull the discipline and the date of service into a missed visit order. And then you guys can process that with your orders and send to the physician after you confirm the cancel. So that's you can do that from the patient calendars, associate calendars, and in the verification screens, you can cancel services and create missed visit interim orders. So this is the one I like, and the one reason I like it is because you can actually, if somebody told you, if they called you and said their time in, time out was wrong, you can come in here and correct it, hit post, even if you're not ready to verify that service. So that's kind of why I like this. You can't do that in the single verification screen. And this is what drives everything. This drives your payroll, drives your billing, all the stuff that you worked for in the beginning, all comes down to this. So this has to be done so that you guys can, again, get those wraps out timely, get the finals out for your final invoices to generate. All services for that episode need to be either verified, or you need to cancel some that are, should have been canceled. But they'll all have to be addressed before that final will drop. So be aware of that. And that's it for the verifications. Now, if you did have the automated turned on, you would have to come in here every day and check the automated service verification errors. So anything that did have any of these little errors over here, they'd show up in the automated error report as well. Okay, so the next thing that I need to cover, or we'll just barely have time to cover this, is how you guys are going to manage your orders. Now, there's two different places you can do it. Under the patient menu, if you go to View Print Orders, this is the global view. So every order that's been approved or sent but not yet received is going to show up in here. If it's not approved, it will not be in here. If it's got a receive date, and it will not be in here. So the unapproved ones will be in your work basket. Those orders need to be approved, and then once they're approved, they will show up in here. And this way, you can send all of these orders just by the click of a button, just by hitting send. So if the doctor has a fax number associated with his profile, then these will automatically, the fax box will automatically be checked. If they do not have a fax number for that physician, then it's automatically going to default to print. Or if the physician set up to receive emailed orders, then it'll default to email here. Only the ones that have not been sent will default to check boxes, so you can just easily hit send. If they have been sent, they're still going to be in here, but it will not default to it, but you do have the option to send it again. So like this order here, you can see over here in the far right, they're under the sent date column, or the sent column. It'll tell you the most recent day that you sent this, or the last time you sent the order. To see all of the times you've sent it, you can click on the little icon next to under the status. You can click on that, and it tells you all the status, when the order was initiated, who initiated it, when they initiated it, when it went from initiated to saved, when it was saved again, when it was saved again, when it was approved, when it was sent. Anytime you back it up and remove the sent dates, I mean, it's going to show you the entire time. Anytime anybody's touched that order, you're going to see that status history, or made changes to the status, I should say. If they go into an order and they just hit cancel, they didn't make changes, it will not update this grid. So you're going to see all that information. So you'll see every single date that you send it. If you guys have a policy of sending them every 30 days until you finally get it back, then you can see, again, the last date here that you sent it, and then if it's been 30 days, send it again. But that's how you're going to kind of manage that. You can uncheck them if you don't want them to go this time around. And again, if they've already been sent and you want to send it again, you can go ahead and mark those changes here. And then up here at the top, you can just hit send. You do have the option to consolidate physician interim orders. It's only going to consolidate certain types of interim orders, mainly like your other interim orders, things that can be consolidated. And it would put all of them on one order for the physician to sign that one time. But it's not all of your orders. Your 485s are completely separate, and it's only some of your interim orders that will allow that to happen with. So you do have that option as well. If you're looking for a specific patient, you can search for that specific patient just by typing in their name and hit search. So these are going to be all of the orders for this patient that are in unapproved or sent status but not yet received in here. So this is the global way of doing it. There is a way to do it from the actual orders tab. Let me go to a patient that has orders. Okay, so let me actually sign in as clinical trainer. I apologize. And this is where on the patient encounters where you're actually going to end up uploading those orders as well when you receive them signed. So 485's gone through coding. All the disciplines have entered all their frequencies and durations and order descriptions. Everything's filled out. Your 485's completed. Just so you know, you do have to have an order description for every discipline. You do have to have verbiage in the locator 22 for your goals, discharge plans, and rehab potential. You have to have your prognosis, mental status, activities permitted. You have to have a primary diagnosis. The rest of it is not necessary. They may not have DMEs. They may not have allergies, diets. Well, you know, the other ones are not required. Gone through coding. You guys are good. Then clinician assigned. And I'm going to enter my approval signature. Then come down here and approve the order. Okay, so if you have an order that's in an approved status here, you can hover over the little action item menu next to that order. And if they have a fax number associated with that physician, you'll see a fax to physician link here. If they don't have one, you will not see this link. And then the print and update as sent. Those are your two options that are actually going to automatically put a sent date in there for you. You do have the option to desktop fax these to anybody you want. However, that's not how you're going to process your orders. You're going to either fax it to the physician or you're going to print and update as sent. If you do the print and update as sent, it'll create this PDF format of your order, which you can either download and upload to a physician portal. You can email it. You know, you can fax it manually if you wanted to, or you can print this off and hand deliver or even mail it to the physician. You know, some of the marketers like to deliver orders so that they can keep that report, the physician, so some of them will do that. But anyway, if you did the print and update as sent, it'll create this PDF. You either have to download it and address it another way, print it and address it that way, but it will update the sent date as of the day that you choose to print and update as sent. You can do it as many times as you want. It will update the sent date every time you do it, and again, you'll have a record of that under the status or of the order. You'll click on that icon, and you'll see how many times it's been sent, etc. If you do fax to the physician, it just goes automatically behind the scenes. You guys won't see anything, but you will get again, in the status history, you'll get that information here. And under the notes tab, you'll get a note if that fax was successful, if it failed, any of that pertinent information. You'll end up getting an automated note there, which again, you'll get in your work basket as well.
Brendan?
And yeah.
So you had said, you know, the 45 needs to have goals in box 22, but the goals will be there from our care needs. That's where the care need goals are going to populate, right?
Correct. It's not going to be in that exact position, but it will be on that 485. It'll say locator 22 next to your goals. Now, your rehab potential and discharge plans will pull from your start of care service notes, but there would need to be some verbiage in that box before it'll let you approve it.
In which box? Box 22?
21, 22, 21 and 22, and those other ones.
So are you saying there isn't that will automatically populate box 22? We're going to have to manually do something?
Correct. And again, box locator 22 is for your goals, rehab potential, and discharge plans. Your goals are going to be on here, but the rehab potential and discharge plans, if they didn't document in that service note and it didn't pull over here or whatever, if this box was completely blank and you try to approve it, you're going to get an error saying that you have to have verbiage in that box.
I understand that.
Again,
my question is, if the service note is completed correctly from the start of care, this document gets fully populated and does not require someone going in and adding something to box 22, or will we still have to go in and add something?
If, again, in the start of care notes, you're going to have a rehab potential and discharge plan. If they enter information in that note and approve their note, it will flow. If they didn't enter information in there and there is nothing here in this box, you have to enter something.
Okay, yeah. I understand that part. I just wanted to make sure that if they did their service note correctly, it would populate in this box, and then it's not like someone has to go in and add something extra. It gets done.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, as long as they do their service note. Now, on your transition patients, remember, you're not going to have a recert service note to pull from, So that information would have to be manually added. And strengths, goals, preferences, plan of care, collaboration, all of this that normally pulls from a service note, it won't be there. So you guys on your transition patients, you'll need to do it. But on your research moving forward after they transitioned and your starter cares, this stuff should automatically all be filled out. So they shouldn't do anything really other than their order description here and their frequencies and durations. And that's all they really need to do. Yeah.
Good,
and
thank you.
sign it, of course. So once you send this order out, and again, you're going to have in the global view, you'll have the same thing. You'll see the sent date in there. Where'd it go? What's this document here? It is going to, I'll just go ahead and fill in this date. Okay, so if you have a sent date in there.
Brendan,
Okay, so you have your sent date, and I've got only got about 5 minutes left. I've got another meeting I got to jump on, but once it's been sent, no matter what, you can't do this from the global view print orders. This is only where you can only do this from the patient encounter, but you'll be able to, again, you'll scan that signed order into your computer. You're going to have that in your computer. You're going to choose upload document. You're going to choose the file, find your file, hit open, and then for the status, you just say no action needed. You can enter a description if you want. It's automatically going to say what the order type was and the effective date of that order, and then you can hit upload and close. That's automatically going to put a receive date in, and then you'll be able to download that signed order from the orders tab. Now for your 485s, if you enter a face-to-face visit date on your referral tab, it will automatically put a face-to-face visit date in this grid. However, that will block the flow of the face-to-face from printing if you guys want that printed. Your first episode, if your payer is set up to require face-to-face, it'll automatically print that face-to-face when you fax it or print and update a sent. But if there's a date here, which will pull from the referral, it will block that flow. So if you guys still need them to sign up face-to-face, don't enter a face-to-face visit date under the referral. But once you get that back, you'll also click on the calendar and enter what that face-to-face visit date was here, and then hit save. Once this has been received, it updates the status to received. It's no longer going to be in the view print orders because we're done with it. And by the way, the fastest way to identify what order it is, because you may have a bunch of medication orders, you may have a bunch of other interim orders, et cetera. Each order has a unique ID under this ID column. And under the bottom left of every single one of your orders, it contains that unique number. So they don't have to come in here physically read the order to make sure it matches that order. They can come in here and just look for that ID. Like this one's 569, and then once this generates, down at the bottom you'll see 569. The I is because it's an interim order. If you see a C, that means it's a 485 or certification. So those are the two letters, C's or I's. That just helps you identify that. But this number is what you want to look at. And then you can easily say, okay, that's this one, and then just go ahead and upload it and attach it. You don't have to read every single one of them. Because you may have more than one interim order for the same effective date, and so that each one will have a unique number automatically generated by CareEfficient.
Brendan, can
Yes.
you just the face-to-face part again? So if we have a referral from, and we know we have the face-to-face, intake's verified that we have the face-to-face, what are you saying we should or shouldn't do because it'll prevent the flow of something? I was confused on that.
Under the face-to-face, under the referral, let me remove this date here. under the referral, when you're entering it, there's a face-to-face referral information.
Yeah.
And it's not going to let me. I've already used it on the 485, so it's not going to allow me to on this test patient. But if you enter a face-to-face visit date under that face-to-face referral information, you can put the doctor and all the other information in there. But if you put the face-to-face visit date there, it's going to automatically flow to this column. And if there's a visit date here, when you go to send your 485, then it's going to block the face-to-face from printing. So the only time you really want to enter a face-to-face visit date is if you have the documentation, which of course you can use a doctor visit note if it has the correct documentation on it. So you may have that, and they may have sent it over with the referral, and so you have your documentation. If you have it on hand and you don't want the face-to-face to print, then go ahead and enter that date here, and it will flow.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
we probably have 95% of our starts that require face-to-face. We have it from intake. Like it comes in because they're usually hospital referrals. We have the hospitalist note. It matches why we're seeing the patient. So we don't send that documentation to the doctor who's signing the 485. We just keep it on file here in case it's requested. So you're saying if we have the information, we should put the date in, and then all that will go to the physician is the 485, but it has that box, I think it's 26 or 27, where it says a face-to-face visit has been completed on, and will that box populate with the date that we put from intake so that, you know, that, what is it, 26 or 27, that we have that box where it says that we did the face-to-face, and that the doctor who's signing it accepts that that's the face-to-face. Is that on this 45?
This is what it'll look like. And I apologize, I do got to let you go here in just a second. So here's your care needs are going to be merged on there. Down here, so this one, you got the face-to-face here. I did do it with the face-to-face, so it will have that information here. It will say, if we did have it received and you guys entered that information, it'll say when we received it on this print view. And then locator 26 is going to have this verbiage here. It's going to say that they certify, et cetera. And then, of course, 27 is where they're going to sign it.
Okay. So, Brendan, the next meeting you have is with me and Keita. So are we just staying on this call, or do we get out of this and then come back in?
I think you're going to have to get out of this one, go back into that next one. And I may be just a minute late, so just give me a minute. But because I think it does have a different meeting ID.
Okay.
So let's just sign back in on the new one. So I'll see you guys here in just a second, okay?
Okay.
Huh?
Nothing, go ahead.
All right, thank you. No, I was just going to say, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to email me, but I do need to let you go right now, and we can answer those questions. All right, thank you guys.
Okay, thanks, Brendan. Thank you.
Okay,
bye.
Bye.